awareness, but we're also still incompetent with it. And I feel like that's where sometimes we're stuck in the medical world, is that we know these things could exist and we don't push through to reach conscious competence, where we're forcing to be good at something to actually continue to improve. And then the last bit is unconscious incompetence, which is just, or unconscious competence, which is your autonomic system, which is where it leads into Neuro20, which that's where we feel this thing is hitting that thing that's deep inside you that automatically works.
Hey guys, Dr. Sinicropi here. We got a really special segment for you here today with somebody that I've gotten to know before we brought him into the Society for Brain Mapping, Dr. Keith Cronin. And this is a guy that is really at the forefront of some really cool stuff. I don't even know how else to put it. I mean, it really is.
It's cool.
It is like, I'm involved in a lot of different things, and I just love talking about pretty much anything, but the technology that you guys are rolling out is really cool. And it's not just like a gimmick, it's something that's being put into major institutions right now as we speak. Like on a weekly basis, I hear some updates. So imagine that there was almost like a superhero suit that you could put on.
Iron Man.
Right? Iron Man suit. Iron Man. I would call Aquaman meets Iron Man.
I want to be Wolverine personally, but that's just my dream.
It's awesome. But anyway, there's this suit that you put on that can stimulate the muscles of the body. Mm-hmm. And not only does it have an effect on those muscles, but we have to remember, what are the muscles controlled by? They're controlled by the brain. So by rewiring the way those electrical signals are going through those muscles, you can actually rewire the brain, which is why you guys are using this suit. It's the Neuro20 suit in so many applications and indications. And I mean, it's really exciting stuff. I mean, you talk about the future. That's a big part of the future. Tell us about this. What is this Iron Man suit? We could fight over. We're gonna fight over
Marvel versus DC all day long.
There you go.
But the Neuro20 suit is this like amazing technology that is your whole body e-stim, and it hits like 20 different pads over your body. So just imagine if you had 20 TENS units, and you were able to operate them and organize them and coordinate them all at the same time. And what effect that would have on your body? Well, the interesting part is we had no clue what would happen if you did this, and why? Because it was impractical. It's just super impractical. You're never going to tie all these things to you. Well, it wasn't until the creator of this actually was basically told he's never going to stand up straight again from getting blown up by too many IUDs. He's a Marine and broken bones, and he just cut open a dive suit and started putting them in there. And then he'd tape it on, and he started to feel better, and then he found himself getting better, so he built the technology to help other vets. Well, then the process of it's not medical. So we just said, let's just keep pushing forward. Got it cleared by the FDA in March, April of 2023. And it kind of entered the market into this orthopedic and fitness. Mm-hmm. But it was only until then could we actually understand what would happen if you put this on someone who had a neurological disease. It never been done. It was only people who were healthy. Right. And so when I got a hold of it, I was actually brought in just to commercialize. I was brought in to make the commercial plan. That's what I do for a living. And about a month, 2 months in, it just broke me because I watched a guy with Guillain-Barré after 15 years stand up and take 4 steps without his braces. And everyone, the guy in the back, like looking, is going, "Oh my gosh, are you going to fall over?" And we looked and went, "Oh my gosh, what is this thing doing?" Because that's not just a placebo effect. That's way more. And then once we started seeing with Parkinson's and MS patients, amputees, then all of a sudden you start seeing individuals' chronic pain go away. So much so, I'll even say in this interview, I'm actually using this with my mom right now, and we are 17 days in. 17 after 30 years of rheumatoid. No pain. And ready? No pain pills. Now I want you to imagine.
What happened? Hold on. Now you have me.
Like I went.
You got me.
And I get updates every single day from her because she's gotten to a point where she's able to function and nothing else has. So this isn't just, we keep looking at and going, oh, well, what's the mechanism? I want to know the mechanism. I have ideas of what it could be on a science end, but look at the outcomes. If you're getting this and you have portable technology that's also DME cleared to go home with individuals, that's non-invasive, non-drug, and it's portable technology, and you take all of those things together and have these effects, and you're not worried about drug interactions, you have pure translational medicine, which is happening in this room right now, where you're bringing people from all around the world with different treatments and different processes, and now we have something that we can bring to the table to make a huge impact.
No, I mean that's beautifully said. So anything that we can do is like this conference is so inspiring. I'm so glad that you're part of the whole thing, and I'm so glad you dove right in because as soon as you saw, and I asked you because I knew the amazing stuff you were doing, and I said, hey, you should check this out. Come on one of our calls. Next thing you know, you're like a regular on these calls. I'm like, I can't.
And I was on the ski slope the entire time.
It was awesome.
Keep having them on Friday, and so I'm like, well, I'll listen in on it.
It's amazing. So I mean, you dove right in because you see like this society, and that's why I joined it because it represents everything I want to do. I'm trying to look at every single technology that I can get my hands on. One, anything that's drug free, you had me at hello. If we're doing, and I know drugs have they have a big part in medicine, and there's molecules that save people's lives every day, but a lot of things are way overdone, and I'm not going to go on. Anybody that watches my stuff,
we can bring one to the table. What if we could bring one to the table right now that didn't interact with all of them and was just positive?
Correct.
What could we do? No, and just consider it. That's all we're doing here. Just consider
and we have
the
to consider it. And the thing is, things that are not either related to pharma or related to procedures. Even the American public has a hard time processing this idea that things that are simple, and I'm not saying your device is simple because there is some complexity to it, but things that are not like you're not popping a pill or getting cut on or doing whatever, people they're like, that can't do that. There's no way that I can get that. I need this special, drug. I have to do this other stuff. And it is a mentality. And I've had a hard time breaking through it, which is why I even started my podcast because I wanted people to know that there are so many options and avenues that, to be honest with you, they're not being distributed to the America. They just don't know. You know what they know? They know whatever the pharma commercials they're watching. I'm just being honest. I mean, it's a big problem.
It's what I call you have your 4 boxes that you have. That would be considered unconscious incompetence. That's just ignorance, right? And then I think one of the hardest things we come to is actually when we actually become, we're aware, so we have awareness, but we're also still incompetent with it. And I feel like that's where sometimes we're stuck in the medical world, is that we know these things could exist and we don't push through to reach conscious competence, where we're forcing to be good at something to actually continue to improve. And then the last bit is unconscious incompetence, which is just unconscious competence, which is your autonomic system, which is where it leads into Neuro20, which that's where we feel this thing is hitting that thing that's deep inside you that automatically works. And if we can tap into that, what are the possibilities for healing and helping and just improving overall quality of life? And I think we're just barely scratching the surface. This is going to keep continuing, and we're going to find out that a lot we have in the science books, we're going to start rewriting stuff. It's going to be great because we're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable with things we don't know.
100%.
And I appreciate you have the same mentality.
No, it's interesting because all these interviews I keep saying 100% because I'm so like in tune with how people are talking about. So you get these electrical pulses going through your body, and so people can wrap their mind around it when it comes to athletics. So I first learned about the Neuro20 suit through Dr. Sipple, through Tram, through these other folks, and we've been using it in athletes, and it was excellent. In fact, a friend of mine, his kid had a major injury recently and had surgery on both of her elbows, and so she's starting on the Neuro20 suit here in a week or two to completely rehab. So from an athletic standpoint, you tell that to people, they're like, you get it, you whatever. And I want to get my son using it. He's a high-level soccer player. It's incredible. Just think like a rehab, like if you have something going on with your you can fire whatever part of that muscle you want. So people get that. People get that. And so that's not something that sells itself. I mean, there's gyms where people are just wearing these suits now, right? Doing the workouts.
Huge. They have franchises that have
I get it. Yeah, complete franchise. We haven't, that's happening in Minnesota. So that part is easy. The part that becomes more difficult for people to wrap their minds around, and I struggle with this all the time because I do all this integrative health stuff outside of spine surgery, is now we're talking about trying to tackle some of the most difficult problems that a lot of brilliant people that are right here at this conference have been trying to tackle for decades. And so I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a second. You're telling me that people are going to put on a suit that have severe neurologic diseases, that have all these other things, have post-COVID syndrome, have all these other things. They can put on a suit, and with certain programming, it's going to make a big impact in their life.
Yes, 100%. It happens so often. Every time it happens, I'm like stumped. I'm humbled. It like flummoxes my entire brain to stare at this and go, how is this possible? How is this happening? And this is actually the first time where, even actually last week was the first time on camera, on talking to the world. We've kept this hidden for a while because we keep getting pushback, and it wasn't until about 3 weeks ago, the first IRB for Neuro20 passed the first large, well-respected institution. And at that point, I realized, you know what? It's time to start talking. And the reason is, if all the top institutions are saying, bring this thing in here, it's because they know something, they've seen something, and it's the same thing that I've been feeling and talking about and working with, and all the great doctors and stuff that have been feeding information over have been absolutely incredible and paramount to what we're doing. Dr. Nathan Kaiser up in Michigan has been feeding over information to me. Dr. Brian Proctor down in McKinney, Texas, sending over tons of patient information, and it wasn't until I lined all of it up. And now I can stare at it and going, I know what that thing is. And now that we know what that thing is, it goes across the board. And so whether you have MS, you have an amputee, you have someone with Parkinson's, you have someone with even some traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, you start going down the gamut, the list of long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome, ME/CFS, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid, all these things that are just dragging us down. And I'll go to even something more common, diabetes. Keep on going down. Why? Because every one of these conditions is a slow breakdown of the human body's ability to actually heal itself, whether it's an autoimmune, whether it's something that's distress. Gosh, if we could do something that would get involved with it. One of the people that I respect more is that Peter Attia. It's the only podcast I actually pay for. I pay for this one. I got the books. And I was at a conference, the longevity conference.
Just let him know I'm looking for him.
Okay, you're looking for him. I'm looking for him too.
I've been looking for him. My PR people have been reaching out to Peter for a while. So if you're watching this, Peter, come on down.
We need to talk to you.
We can do it together. So because you're a busy guy.
Oh, but at that conference, he said, and it still sit with me. Look, if we could just physically contract more muscles, it would solve most of our problems. If we think about the cascading chains of GLUT1 transporters, and you think about all the effects it has with just nitric oxide and dilating and energy transport, if we just did that, I think we'd be a lot better. And I like that simplicity because with Neuro20, that's what we're doing. We're making it easier for you to move a muscle. We're making it easier to get information up into the head. And that's why it's like reverse engineering movement. Let's do it instead of cortically down as a neuro to body axis. What if we flip it? And what if we go a muscle to neuro axis and we just use that same mediators, that same electrical impulses to create a cascade of positive? What would happen? And I know what's happening. We're seeing it over and over, and that's why I'm so excited to be here, because I always thought getting involved with a bodysuit would just be a physical therapy thing, like I'm a physical therapist.
Exactly.
It was way bigger, and I almost felt uncomfortable to talk with it. And the group that put in the first IRB, I will let you know, 1 year ago, they said, what you're talking about is not possible. Why are they the first one to put it through? Here's why: because a patient went in, had it on, and they couldn't exercise with him because he was hypertensive. In 20 minutes, it dropped his blood pressure 20 points so he could exercise. How does that affect a closed loop? Well,
blood pressure obviously is affected by electrical. I mean, even at the capillary level, you have those mesenchymal stem cells sitting there, and they're doing their stuff. There's all the signaling. So so one is exciting about the Neuro20 suit, and what attracted me to it, because I didn't know anything about the Neuro20 suit.
I didn't either when I got involved.
I didn't know anything about it, but we're always looking for simple tech. We a lot of times overcomplicate. So the way I got into kind of the field of integrative medicine is it all started with light therapy and photobiomodulation.
Okay. Yep.
So when you take light, right, and you shine it at the right frequency and the right wavelengths and all these things, you can stimulate cells to message each other differently. Mostly it works through mitochondria, it's uptake in the mitochondria, but there's different types of light, and that's beyond that. But the bottom line is, a lot of what we're seeing is the signaling between cells. And so it's not just, so for example, a lot of times we talk about like stem cells.
Yeah.
There's different stem cells. There's embryonic stem cells that can become anything, and I just did a podcast about some of those things. But then there's like adult stem cells, like mesenchymal stem cells. It's more about their signaling, how they're signaling. So they're sending these molecules out, people like exosomes and these small molecules. There's all this work being done in other small molecules, peptides, right? Peptides are huge right now. It's all part of this milieu that controls everything. And you said it right before, it's all about healing and regeneration.
Yes.
And I think that what your suit's doing, and I know some of the mechanisms actually have to be elucidated, and that's what all these big institutions, and again, because I know that you guys are talking to many very large, some of the most world-renowned institutions. It's very exciting, and I'm glad they're starting to get on board, because I'm like gonna just like turn blue or red or something if people just don't listen to the fact that these great people are doing these great things. But I think that the suit, stem cell therapy, phototherapy, shockwave, all these things, what they're doing is they're changing all the signaling. All these signaling molecules are changing.
They're all energy.
It's all energy. You're just changing the way things are. So when yours, and obviously yours works a little different than those other things, but it all goes along the line. So one of the things that excited me that I learned recently about your suit is what you're finding as far as what the suit might do to like the stem cell, like what's in your body right now. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we're just kind of teasing into this area. It's an area where we're just starting discussions with groups with this, is because whenever it comes to stem cells, they have to differentiate or they have to act, right? So they have to do something.
With their signal. They have to signal.
They have to signal.
Yeah.
And so if you were to think, and let's go back to it, and Peter, I'm coming at you again here because I like you. If we were to think, what if we could make the homeostatic environment better? So let's take those stem cells, and now we're putting it into the human body where like, I want you to differentiate, I want you to signal, I want you to do something for the positive. What if that environment is toxic? So we got a problem now. We want it to do X, but why is it going to? Well, there's an issue. You already say have high levels resting of lactate. You don't actually exercise. You're already in a broken down, sympathetically driven state. That's not exactly a good spot for healing. Well, what if we could do that in combination? Let's think again, translational medicine, not look at one thing. Let's look at multiple things.
Multiple systems.
Let's look at the thing that's all of a sudden coming through, and you're putting something into the system that if it could get the right signaling or bump against the right thing, the good thing's going to happen. But what can we do to make that better? What if we could almost make like an internal sort of dating app for these sort of differentiators in there? We got to connect them a little bit quicker, okay? So let's make the environment better. So with Neuro20, we know, as I mentioned before, we get those GLUT1 transporters more active. We basically decrease that overall sympathetic drive. If we could actually increase blood flow simply just by mechanical pumping, what if we could put the individual into a less anxious and stressful environment? What if they all of a sudden have decreased blood pressure? If they have just overall feeling better? If someone's in a state of feeling better, they're going to feel good, and you know what they're going to do? They're probably going to heal better. We've done this with patients all the time, and just in physical therapy alone, those who have a positive mindset, those who are more actively involved, they get better faster. Well, what if we could use this just to calm it down while all that amazing science is pumping through them and finding the right signal, finding that right partner that it bumps into and then does the thing that you're looking to do? It's sort of at the very beginning of this journey, but I'm so excited because I genuinely believe.
I feel it. I'm feeling your.
Do you feel the electricity? Do you feel it? God, I'm excited. Oh my God.
I do feel it. You know what? You win for the most excited guest of the day for sure. You know what's interesting is that I talk about like this all the time, and you're just right. Listen, I'm a physician. I'm a scientist. I'm over here. I'm listening to lectures about down to the level of the molecular. But the truth is that if you look at these, if you look at things like meditation, if you look at things like positive mantras and all these other things, I talk about them a lot. But the truth is, it doesn't stimulate like one thing. Like people say, oh, oxytocin, that's the hormone of love, or it's dopamine, or it's this or that. Yeah, that's fine. It's a milieu. So I always talk about when I say, I was like, well, there's the hormones of stress.
Yes.
And there's a lot of them. It's not just the catecholamines. There's cortisol. There's all the stuff that's going on. There's just all bad. There's bad stuff that goes on. But then there's the other stuff. My favorite thing, because I like to be touchy-feely. I almost do it on purpose, like for people that don't want me to be touchy-feely. I'm maybe more touchy-feely. Talk about the hormones of love. Yeah. And so we all know this. So when you can look at the brain. So for example, if you look at these guys that go into these deep meditative states, certain parts of their brain lights up, and people would say, it's kind of like an avatar. Like she's a Sigourney Weaver. She's like, wow, that's a beautiful brain. Like, because the brain's all lighting up. It's a gorgeous brain, or whatever it was. It's amazing. And so you're getting that, but then that is then through the, our hormonal axis, that's releasing a ton, like all kinds of stuff. And that's why I think that medications are amazing, but they cannot replicate what the body can do itself, because the body's going to release them, and in the right quantities when you have the right backdrop. Yes. So I think your suit is helping to that. I think you're helping to release the hormones of love. From a scientific standpoint, how are you measuring? Are you measuring them going from a sympathetic state into a parasympathetic state by blood pressure parameters, or is there some other thing? Have you guys measured changes in cortisol levels? And
those are all coming.
It's all coming.
So we've done individual tests to be able to see that changes in heart rate variability. We've been able to see the actual changes in infrared spectroscopy to see blood flow changes and really move quickly to the executive functions of the head, which is phenomenal. And so we then also ones were just some medication ones. We had a spinal cord patient get off of baclofen and gabapentin and was off permanently.
Yeah, because you're great. I mean, this is great for spasticity. But again, that's something like the spasticity part of it. I think people are going to wrap their minds around that much quicker than they wrap their minds around. How does it help, like in traumatic brain injury and things like that, which we're interested in using it because we have this great concussion program, and we want to include this neuro suit in that. I think it's that other piece of the electrical stimulation, a much higher level than traditional physical therapy, which you are, completely different. And you can titrate it how you want. It's just very different. There's only certain ways like you can make people exercise or walk. Yeah, you can pull infinite numbers of levers with your technology. Have you looked at quantitative EEG?
Well, actually, it's interesting. We're actually looking to have that built into the suit. So the suit itself right now can have EEG in it. It's just not turned on yet. So this suit does have that ability. We'd have to get another FDA clearance for that to be able. So you'd be able to switch back and forth between treating and measuring. Good
old FDA. Good luck with that. You make one little tiny change, and you have to go you have to do the whole thing over.
You just have to have. We just need additional investment for it. We also have one that's pants that go all the way down the legs. Those are already on there. They have a lot of different technology. They're also in the last stages of patents right now with this for different products. Right. But the whole idea is it's still going around. What can you do if you use systemic electric? And as I've said this so many times, and I love the hormones in the body. And the one I'm always amazed with is actually dopamine. And it's because it has the two main functions are your sort of risk reward, right? So if you work at something and you're given dopamine, which unfortunately we tap on our iPhones and we're given little hits and it makes us addicted.
Well, it makes us also dopamine depleted. And then, it's not good.
Okay, so it's not good. But then also you have someone who has a neurological condition. And most individuals who have neurological conditions have trouble moving.
Right.
And so you need dopamine to move, and you have dopamine to have what you want. So what if you can't move? How are you going to get what you want? How are you going to move towards it? We're very simple. We feel, we think, and we move. We act upon it. And that's why it's so profound when you have a dysregulation of any of these things. It just doesn't affect you physically. It affects you mentally. Go with all the individuals who have these chronic conditions, and you go, oh, you're all happy-go-lucky. No, they're also depressed. It's not just their physical state. It's the fact that they can't. I was at a long COVID support group in Colorado. It was like last June. This one crushed me. Right before that, I'd actually put out a white paper on long COVID specific to Neuro20. And this patient was in there talking about her experience. And this one is still stuck with me to this day. She said, I can't remember what it feels like to feel good. And I just kind of stopped and thought about that. I was like, so you don't even have the understanding of good. You are in a constant state of dark. And I go and tell you be better. I tell you feel good. I tell you do all these things. But you can't hear it because you can't understand it. I'm speaking a different language.
They're trapped in a dark, fuzzy room.
And all of a sudden, when I came out of that was last June, and then I really turned the afterburners on and going after places like top institutions because I heard it, and I got home, and I'm like driving home, and I was like 2.5 hours away, and I'm like crying, like just thinking about you can't even understand it. We have to do better. If you cannot get someone's body and brain in touch with one another, it will always be apart. And if it stays apart, I don't care what you throw at somebody, you're going to be depressed, and as a healthcare, we're going to be broken as a whole. And this is where we can focus instead of looking at fixing healthcare as a whole. If you focus on the individual, and an individual wants to be better, and they want to be healthy, and they can understand the concept of it, and they want more, they will do more. We have to do better to actually improve that in quality, and I think that's where Neuro20 is going to step in.
No, I mean that's amazing. And you know what's funny is that feeling, because I've posted stuff like to that thing. Everybody says it a little bit different, but unfortunately, there's millions of people trapped in those dark holes. Right now, we're not in a great place in healthcare, which is why I've become so involved with this organization, because they really are at the forefront. They're looking at the future. They're not looking back. They're looking forward. But millions of people are trapped in these loops, and looking at it, we just are focusing on the tiniest pieces of it. We have to look at like systems. Like, for example, you mentioned the dopamine. You love dopamine. I love dopamine. Here's the deal. I think your suit helps in its way, and then, for example, like all these different like biohacking. But one of the things that people often miss with the whole dopamine thing is the gut.
Yep,
gut health.
Absolutely.
And so the microbiome, I had Dr. Emran Mayer on. He's pretty much the guru of the microbiome in the U.S. I mean, he's got book after book. I encourage you to read some of his
gut
books.
neuroaxis,
Yep.
Even neurodegeneration.
Brilliant
You
guy.
get a stomach ache, you get a headache. I mean, it happens.
I mean, we've evolved over millions of years to be in a symbiotic state with our gut. And if you've got the bad guys going over the good, I'm going to really simplify it. You can't be well.
No.
That's 90% of your serotonin is produced in your gut. It eventually goes and does its thing and becomes all that stuff. And it's really involved in regulating our entire bodies. But if you look at our system right now, and you're going through traditional methods, I ask person after person, have you ever had a microbiome analysis? So far, I'm going to tell you zero. Zero people.
It's hard enough to get people
in my
to change
regular
their oil,
practice. I mean, they're going to have a microbiome, but it's huge. It's huge. So, but now I'm meeting a lot of people are having fecal transplants. I had a guy that had a really bad post-COVID thing. He ended up getting a fecal transplant, and that was the answer. It was a very interesting thing. But when you talk about long COVID, it's devastating.
Yes.
And so we treat a lot of long COVID patients in our integrative clinics. And the light therapies, the oxygen, but the light is really good for COVID. So for brain fog, the light to the brain or systemically is extremely powerful. I mean, that's been written about. I mean, that's like a known thing. So you start combining those things with the suit. It's these combinations. It's these algorithms that people aren't. It just drives me nuts. You go, everyone's like this. I'm like, what if we take this from this discipline, this from this discipline, this from this, and combine it safely? I'm not talking about combining 10 drugs. I'm talking about, okay, you get a suit, and then you get light, and then you get oxygen, and then you're having a peptide, and all massively low-risk things. Like, what are we doing? Why are we not?
I think it's widgets and gimmicks. It's because of all those things, it's just like a widget and gimmick. But if I were to say a drug, you would say medicine.
Yeah.
That's it. If you start there, it's like marketing, since I work in marketing, right? I always argue and joke about this. We need to market health better. We don't have a health problem. We have a marketing problem in health. We're not communicating. We're communicating in problems, because the reason is because with pain you can sell problems. Okay, if I were to if everyone just slept regularly, exercise, I got 2 free things right now, so this isn't good. And you ate healthier, well, that's going to be good for people who make lettuce and stuff, and not for McDonald's.
Well, you just what you said. You just saved. Thank you. You just saved us $1 trillion.
You saved $1 trillion.
You just saved $1 trillion. And you said 3 things.
I haven't even worked my way down the list, and that's. But then but right there, I need to go tell you I've got you the one thing that will fix you, so you get fixated on it. So I've done this before, where I say I can go show you where your mental and physical health is by your Costco receipt. So you take your Costco receipt, now and go break it, the whole thing down, and I can show you where and why and how you did all those things. And imagine if we were like a doctor. And if you could actually say to your patient what you really wanted to say, as opposed to saying like, well, you have high blood pressure and you should go take these pills. What if you said, and you're more crass, you're like, well, your high blood pressure over there is probably going to make you have erectile dysfunction eventually, and you're going to have a hard time in life. And I hate to break it to you, your neighbor who got the promotion over there, well, he's doing great in the world, and you're hating on him right now. That makes you more depressed. See, I would just if I could say that honestly, I marketed it to you that way, you'd be like, all right, doc, what do I got to do?
That's
I said, hold on.
That's how I market it to my patients.
So I'm not letting that happen to me. No, sir. Okay, so it's just meds, or I got to take care of myself. But we don't, because I'll lie to you and go, yep, I'm going to exercise. Like, yep, here's some pills. And then we move on our way. We've got to break that. We have to break that cycle. We need to get in there and just defibrillate it. It needs to snap. But it's hard to, because we also have an economy that's built upon that. We have
$4.4 trillion to spend. 90% of it is on sick care, and we're getting sicker. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it's not.
That's
it's not great.
Not exactly being allocated the way that we should be allocating it. I like the fact that you played the ED card.
Yeah.
Because we have a new partner at our integrative health clinic. He's a family medicine doctor. He dropped the same line. He's like, I tell him you're going to get ED, and the guys are like, oh,
whoa, now hold on.
Wait a minute. What do I need to do, doc? What do I do? Oh, I should get my high blood pressure down.
What if I told
really?
you, because you didn't sleep enough, that you couldn't pay attention enough at work, and you would never be able to pay off your college debt, and you wouldn't get the promotion because you just couldn't focus enough? Then you'd be like, well, that hit me in money. So it's only ever 7 things. I can never highlight this enough. It's make money, save time, decrease a headache, increase marketability, stroke an ego, or do right by people. There are only 7. And those are the 7 benefits we have to talk about. If you focus on those as healthcare, we're always like, I do right by people. But here's the problem. That's number 7. We have to show people that by having a healthier lifestyle, how can you make more money? By having a better mindset in your brain, how can you spend less because you're not chasing something to make you feel better in the moment? How can you actually get rid of the headaches in your world so you can focus on things that put you ahead in life, that save you time, that make you more attractive to other individuals, that market yourself better, and then doing right by people, you already did it.
I mean, absolutely brilliant. We have to frame it in a way of saying, what is your loss? And I talk about, here's the most simple, you want to hear the most simple basic thing? The Happy Meal.
Yes.
You're saving $10 today because you want to get your $5 Happy Meal. What is that costing you in lost wages? What is that costing you in mental health? What is that costing you in obesity, diabetes, hypertension, your family like not wanting to talk to you because you're always in a bad mood, you not having good relationships, ED, whatever else is going on? We don't frame it that way. They're like, I want to save $10 today and I get it. I'm not being like non-sensitive. I get that people can't. There's disparities.
$5 chicken at Costco. Come on.
So anyway, this has been amazing. I want to do that 3-hour
100%.
podcast with you. I might even be longer than 3 hours because I don't know if we're going to be able to to stop it. But this has been great. I encourage people to go out and check out the Neuro suit. We've been like amazingly impressed by it. Again, I'm looking for the data because until the hardcore data comes out from these IRBs, as a physician, we have to be like really careful. But I know that for things, that are within my scope, helping people, to regain their vitality, their function, for athletes, even for people that have post-concussion, because a lot of them have a disconnect between what the brain is saying and how their body's working.
Metabolic issue.
And it's just not working right. So I think that there's phenomenal potential for that. And but I think you're just helping the world in general because you want to get the message out of just healing, regenerative. It's really, even though you're not a stem cell guy per se, and I love stems, I love that topic. You are in the field of regenerative medicine because you're healing. That is in that bucket. If I had to put in a bucket, it's in there. So this has been great. Thanks for bringing the energy. I don't know if anybody can match you. We're going to have to look around and see if we could find somebody that is at this level.
I love this. We call it technology that moves you. And however we move it, whether it's physical, spiritually, mentally, it doesn't really matter. If we can move in the right direction, I'm just going to get more excited. That's it.
All right.
I will never stop.
Well, don't get too much more excited. Good to see you. Dr. Sinicropi here. Dr. Keith Cronin. We'll see you next time.